Our next lecture is called Your Health, Your Choice. And because that's really what we're going to talk about. We have many choices that we can make, and these affect what we will be like, what the probability of diseases will be, all of these parameters. Now, we are actually fearfully and wonderfully made. And it is surprising that the human being can take so much abuse and still survive. And the fact that everything is still so normal is really very surprising. What are the risk factors affecting our health? Well, there are some things that you can change and some things that you cannot change. For example, if the environment gets to be very polluted, you can't very well jump off the planet. You're sort of restricted to this place. But there are other things, again, which you can avoid, which I like to call monsters in our lifestyles. Smog blights babies in the womb. Well, there's nothing other than you can do about that except stop breathing. And then there are other things that we do to ourselves, like we take stimulants, we have stressful lives. People wake up in the morning, they feel half dead, they need a stimulant. So one grabs for a cup of coffee or a cup of tea or a cola drink or a cigarette or any one of those just to get going. And you get hooked to these stimulants. And they increase your state of arousal. Then when you come home and you want to go to bed and you've had these all day long, then you need a depressant, something to calm you down. So you come home and you have a drink. Some people have alcohol or spirits, some go for narcotics, some are hooked on medication, some take aspirins, or some just smoke pot, cannabis, marijuana, whatever. And then you can even have some people that try to opt out by using hallucinogens, LSD, ecstasy, any one of those, and if you're really down and out, you go for the inhalants. All of these have their problems. Let's first look at alcohol, generally speaking. If you want to have active natural killer cells, that's a type of immune cell that gobbles up aberrant cells, like cancer cells, for example, then it's good that you should actually have no alcohol. A bout of heavy drinking influenced the ability of natural killer cells to destroy cancerous cells, that's been shown, and very small amounts of alcohol can also prevent these cells from actually changing or undergoing attacks or taking part in your immune capacity. So even small amounts of alcohol reduce your immunocapacity. Cirrhosis is not something that only comes from heavy drinking. Women particularly can be prone to cirrhosis of the liver, even if small quantities are consumed. Here, for example, is a normal liver. Here is a cirrhotic liver. Notice the fat deposition. Children, for example, many can be born with what we call fetal alcohol syndrome. Typical would be a small head circumference, low nasal bridge, eye folds, short little nose, small mid-face, thin upper lip. And not all of these features present at the same time, necessarily, but typically that would be fetal alcohol syndrome. You know, it's very strange that women who drink excessively while pregnant have a 30 to 45% chance of having a child affected, but notice that just 2 mixed drinks per day seems to be the level at which damage occurs. So even a small amount of alcohol is detrimental to development. It's detrimental to your immune capacity. Everybody knows that cigarettes are bad for you. And typically, cigarette smoke per day and the incidence of cancer is very strongly correlated. Here, for example, if you've never smoked in your life, what's your probability of reaching the right old age, let's say of 85? If you've never smoked in your life, you go up to the red graph, and your probability is around about there, 35%. If you have smoked 25 cigarettes or more a day, the probability of getting there is less than 10%. It's quite a difference. What about getting to 70? Probability is actually very good if you've never smoked, 80% if you've never smoked, and the probability is only 40% if you smoke 25. So any reduction in smoking is already an improvement, but no smoking, banning would be the very best. If you look at world cancer rates, you'll see that Scotland, Hong Kong, Iceland, United States, Denmark are the ones way at the top there. And it seems like some of the industrialized countries are not doing too badly. Today there's a slight shift towards the non-industrialized countries. Lung cancer in the United States, males started smoking since the 1950s quite heavily, and then it increased rapidly to the 90s. Women lagged behind in this social adventure and only started smoking in 1965. Probably because women are more intelligent than men. Isn't that right? Absolutely. It must be, right? But it seems as if they are catching up eventually, and today there's actually a shift around. So given time, men get more intelligent. I don't know exactly how that works. Obviously, that's a pretty bad tumor over there. You don't want a lung that looks like that, or this is a typical smoker's lung compared to a smoke-filled lung of a non-smoker. And these are pretty bad. Here's an experiment that was done by a colleague of mine. We, at our university, were quite interested in lifestyle diseases. And this man over here, Professor Moritz, he did a lot of research. He's world-renowned for his nicotine research. And he did some fascinating studies on rats. And here you see metabolic rates, for example. Let's just look at this one. Glucose, burning glucose. Normally, a little rat would have that burning capacity, micromoles per gram per hour burning glucose. But if he gave them nicotine, that capacity doubled. If he withdrew the nicotine, then it went way, way low. Now, that's an interesting point. You see, women, for example, are very attracted to this. When they smoke, they naturally burn more energy, and therefore they tend to stay thinner. When they give up smoking, that capacity drops to less than half, and they tend to get fat. That's why women don't like to give up smoking, because they get fat. Whereas normally that would be your level somewhere between the two. So if you give it up long enough, your metabolism would increase again. So the only thing you can do then is remain active and fit to prevent this from happening. But here's something very interesting that he found. If he took a pregnant rat and he gave the mother nicotine, that's the equivalent of simulating a mother that smokes during pregnancy. And then the pups were born, and he keeps on feeding her with the nicotine, simulating someone smoking, 1 milligram per kilogram body mass, and gives it up to day 21. That means the little ones are still getting the nicotine in the mother's milk. Then this is what happens to the baby's lungs. This one over here is one that receives nicotine, this purple one, and this is one that doesn't. These are the babies. So the babies never actually directly get nicotine, they just get it indirectly from the mother. And you'll see that when they are born, the lungs are pretty much the same, but as they develop the lungs, so the alveoli volume gets large compared to one where the mother did not get any nicotine. The alveoli volume actually gets small. Now that's important. So the babies from a mother that smokes, in brackets, would have large air sacs. And the babies from a mother that does not smoke would have small air sacs. Not only that, if we look at the number of alveoli, we have the same thing. Here is a mother, the babies of a mother that never smoked, and you'll see that the number of alveoli increases dramatically with development, where it also increases in the group where the mother did smoke, not as greatly. So there's a great difference in the number of alveoli at day 42 of development. So what does that mean? Simply this, that if a mother smokes, her offspring is likely to have large little air sacs in the lung and few. Whereas if the mother did not smoke, the air sacs would be small and many. Now what is preferable? A small one has a large surface area for the exchange of oxygen relative to volume. So if you have lots of small ones, that's the way you would want it to be. And here is the nicotine alveoli of a little baby that did not smoke. Notice the large alveoli and the little holes in it. It actually tears and the lung actually bleeds internally. This is the baby that never ever smoked. It just inherited it from the mother. And here's one where the mother did not smoke, and you'll see nice tiny little alveoli. That's just the size measure over there. Smooth, no holes in it, absolutely perfect under the electron microscope. So very nice lung development. And then he did something interesting. He took the whole lung and he put it in an acid and he dissolved all the tissue away until only the elastic tissue was left. And here was the lung of a control rat. In other words, once all the tissue had dissolved, that's what left. That's the elastic tissue. It looks like a sponge. If he took the same age one from a mother that had, in inverted commas, smoked, that's what it looked like. Wow. So basically, that is a lung of someone who has emphysema. That lung is so useless. The air sacs are large and floppy, and the elasticity of the lung is poor. So some people who have children do this to their kids. I believe my wife is one of them. She has the worst lungs under the sun. You go to that test where you blow to see what the force of your lung is and your capacity. She blows it that far. Her mother was a heavy smoker while she was pregnant, and my wife just inherited these pathetic lungs. Me, I blow that thing into the middle of next week. My mother never smoked, even though I smoked when I was stupid and young. It makes a big difference. Your choice, you see, does not only affect you, it can affect your offspring. And secondhand smoke is just as bad.